Hi, welcome to the Inspiration of Painting. I'm glad you could join me in the studio today for our next session. And this is something particularly interesting to me because it's the fall of the year and it's just an incredible feeling outside, and I've always enjoyed this part of the year more than anything else. And it's most important to me as an artist because there's so much color, okay? Now we're gonna do something very unusual and very different, but just to give you a little background why we're gonna do this. A few days ago, my wife had just put together a little still life for a little setting outside our home for the fall season. And it's a beautiful, beautiful scarecrow with some pumpkins and some hay and some vegetables laying around. It's a really, really neat and a wonderful study for artists. Now, I want to also get a couple things across to those of you that are watching regularly and doing these lessons on a monthly basis. Please remember that all of these lessons are designed to help you become a better painter, not just to satisfy your own particular need as an artist to do something specific. You got to remember that as you're learning, and after 21 years of painting, I have come to realize that so many of us want instantaneous success as a painter, and we can't have that. So take every subject that we paint as a lesson, not as something that you want to go necessarily hang, frame, and put on your wall or whatever. That may happen occasionally, but the key to these sessions is not to necessarily satisfy your desire for a particular subject that you want to paint, but to help you learn more techniques. It doesn't matter how long it takes or how short it takes. I just want to make sure you understand that learning is the key thing here, and that's what I try to get across the most. And frankly, why we've had so much success in our programs here and on PBS, because we give a lot of instruction. So please keep in mind, okay? We appreciate all the cards and letters you keep sending, and all your suggestions are very helpful. Just remember that we got to concentrate on learning, okay? Not hurrying through this and making it something that maybe not even benefits you. So that's why I've chosen this subject after that long speech, to give you some idea of what we're going to do today. We're going to paint a vertical canvas, all right? Now I'm going to take my charcoal, make a real rough sketch, all right? Now we're going to do most of this drawing with our brush today. But you can see old Pumpkinhead here is really neat against a brick wall there. It's got some good strong light. And so I'm going to start with just a simple sketch up here, okay? Just a simple sketch of the head. Now it's leaning slightly. You don't have to get a perfect shape, just a fairly good shape. And you can even use your own design for the face. It doesn't really matter, okay? Just get the basic thing there. And of course, the body here, he's got his arm, great big fat guy here. And of course they're very out of proportion. These scarecrows, of course, were designed in the early days to scare off the crows so that they wouldn't mess up with the crop. The old holy blue jeans here, and we'll put him sort of in the middle. I mean, this is not something necessarily that I would want to paint and hang on my wall either. That's not the point behind this, but the point is it's great learning material. This is an excellent subject for learning how to paint. I'm not real big on doing still lives and things either, or even doing people as much as I am other things, but they all teach us things, okay? So keep that in mind. Okay, after you get the basic pumpkin there, we're going to have this bale of straw actually here that he's sitting on back here. And then of course there's some of the Indian corn that's kind of, you don't really have to draw it in there. We'll paint it in a little bit later. All right, then there's another pumpkin here, which is kind of interesting. And then there's some old gourds and little different and various things here. And another bale of hay or straw. Actually, this is straw here. This one's sort of turned more horizontally towards us. Comes out here. And then we have a little here. There's some, the end of the corn sticking out over here. All right, this is going to be interesting. And of course you got the old holes in the knees there. Now we'll make adjustments, like I said, as we go along here, because you can't really do this exactly like you want it right at first. You have to kind of just get the rough sketch, the composition down, and then kind of go from there. Now after we get the basic sketch all completed here, then we're going to start blocking in the background. But I want to let you know, now we're going to use artistic license, as we've talked about before in some of the other lessons. And instead of having the brick wall, and this is up against the side of my home here, so it's not quite as interesting as it could be if it were actually out, in the field. So instead of having a brick wall and the support post for our covered porch there, I think it'd be more fun to have maybe even a fence post or something like that in the background here, or maybe nothing in the background, just smudges of color to create sort of a muddled look. But I think for the fun of it, I'm going to go ahead and put this fence post here, and also this adds to the composition. And I think if you put the fence post here and then maybe some wire coming across, will create the effect that, you know, he's leaning up against this post here. I think it'll be really interesting and will add a lot of character to the painting. But we'll fill in the background first, and we're going to start that really quickly, and it's very impressionistic by using the Yarnell Hake brush here. This is the large one that we use for background work, and we're going to use our gesso. Of course, we have our palette now set up just pretty much like normal. We have our cad yellow light, cadmium orange, the Grumbacher red, the Hooker's green. We have the burnt sienna, the ultramarine blue, the burnt umber, the dioxazine purple, and any other miscellaneous colors that we have we can add, but we're not going to use any in today's session. Now, we're going to muddle the background for sure, okay, just simply because we don't want to focus on that. Our focal point is here on the scarecrow and the hay and so forth. So let's just take this big brush and we'll just lightly wet the background. I'll go ahead and paint over the post, go right around the edge of his shape here. You know, it's a lot of fun if you haven't done it before to go out and set up your own still life. In fact, I'm going to be doing one here soon for our television show. And it's fun. It's kind of like, you know, doing it live, because you got all these things laying around that you've arranged, whether you're doing flowers or fruits and vegetables or something else. It's fun to do these kind of things once in a while. Plus, it gives you tremendous information on different subjects. You learn a lot about color, about design, about shape and form, and all those things that an artist thrives on. Okay, now after we've kind of wet the background, you can see it's wet. It's not just damp, but it's pretty wet, dripping a little, but that's okay. Then you take your gesso now, and you just sort of muddle the colors in around like this, or the gesso. I'm not going to add any color just yet. But while we're doing this, I'm going to be talking to you about color. Now remember that this particular painting, if you'll notice on the monitor there, or film, is that we've got a lot of the earth tones here. We've got the oranges, we've got the tans and the grays and the peach colors, and all kinds of very strong, very subtle too, earth tones. We got, and of course the orange is the key color. So let's think a minute, what would be a good complement to our background? So see, here already is a very good learning experience. Using orange in here as much as we're going to for the pumpkins, it's a good idea for you to understand now what you should do to use your background color. And I think in this particular case, of course, the complement to orange is, you know what it is, you got it, is blue. The complement to orange is blue. So please remember that you need to get some blues, some grays, anything in that, even some, of course, violets, purples, and so forth. Okay, now see I've got a nice underpainting of gesso here. I'm going to put a little more down here, perhaps a little over here. And you can have a lot of fun with this guy. Lots of fun. Now see, I paint right over the edges of things, because every time you do your main subject, it's going to grow anyway. It's going to expand. So come over a little bit, and then when you paint, you can paint out, and then he won't grow too big, okay? Although he is stuffed and he's fat now, he'll look like a big balloon if we're not careful. All right, now then, take your color. Let's start with the blue, for instance. Just take the ultramarine blue and just go ahead and smush it around, because there could be a little sky showing back here. But remember, we're not going to paint a specific background. We're going to use muddled colors. But because the blue is a complement to the orange, and also it repeats the blue in the blue jeans there, which will be a great color. So everything's going to fall into place very nicely here. So you throw in the blue, and you can smooth it out a little bit. You don't have to get it real smooth, but you can kind of skin the surface there and smooth that out. And then as you come down past that, this very top section, you can see, it could just be a suggestion that there's a little sky there. But as you come down now, we start adding maybe a little orange to this. Okay? like this. And this is how we begin getting in the colors that we need. Don't be afraid to throw in the orange. Now, we're not going to leave it that orange necessarily, because see, as you blend it into the blue, it softens it, turns it almost sort of a grayish color. Contrary to what a lot of folks think, if you mix blue and orange in its true nature, it'll turn kind of a greenish color. But if you mix it and add the white to it, it's sort of a grayish color. Okay, now see how nice and soft that is? Sort of muddle the colors together. Now in this case, let's throw in, say, a little touch of purple. And I'm going to throw some burnt sienna in also. Let's do that over here on this side. And then a little right in through here. See, we want just a little bit of color that will do nicely to complement the rest of the painting. Now, don't get any of these colors very strong. You want to keep them very pastel. And frankly, that's why the gesso is on underneath, because you can see it blends it so nicely. Now I'm feathering. See how I'm gently feathering using very light, very quick strokes, okay? So don't be afraid to feather. Soften. Come around. This. Come over here, kind of blend it a little bit. Don't get rid of that orange completely. Yes, that's an excellent background so far for this. Now let's take a little more blue and brown perhaps and finish out down here. Kind of a grayish color. Then you get a nice, very nice soft background. Let's do the same thing over here, sort of a blue and orange. Okay, now you've got a nice, soft, sort of a muddled background. It has all the basic colors. If you look real close over here now at the subject, you'll notice all of the colors that we have in our background we also have in the subject. You know, we've got the oranges, the tans, the blues, the grays, all the earth tones. So that's going to really work out very nicely. All right, now then, while that's drying, let's go ahead and take our same brush and we'll just block in where the fence post goes, right sort of in behind him there. And let's just take a little burnt umber. And once again, you'll see how versatile this brush is. This is a beautiful brush. I just finished a tour in Florida for several days doing lectures and demonstrations. And this brush is becoming so popular because it can be used for watercolor. It can be used for anything you want to use it for, okay? It really is exciting. So now you can turn it sideways and you just block in the fence post here. Now the reason why I'm putting this fence post right where it's at is because I want the darker contrast against old Pumpkinhead's head there, because that nice bright orange will show up real good against that dark brown post. And with the wet background, see, you have a little bit more space in terms of time, I guess I should say, to blend. So just kind of blend. Now we'll pick out a light source. In this case, it was an evening, so the sun was going down in the west. And so I think we'll have the sun coming through here. You can't really see dramatic light and shadow there, but we'll add some. Okay. Now we're cooking. Okay, now I want you to get the fence post in there. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to start blocking in the hay and the areas inside the painting. You always start inside with the dark areas first. So rinse this brush out. In fact, let's go over here and take a look at the subject again. And if you'll notice, there's a lot of dark areas. For instance, between where everything sits together, where his legs overlap the hay, you'll see some dark shadows. You'll see, whenever two objects join together, you'll see a dark area. So you always begin building from dark to light whenever you're doing this. Okay, we've blocked in the fence post now. We'll let that sit. Now let's start concentrating on the darker areas. I'm going to switch to a number 6 bristle brush. This is the Grumbacher number 6, or actually number 4. Let's go to the number 6. Okay, this is the number 6 bristle brush. And from the hay, we will go ahead and take a little bit of burnt umber, a little touch of blue maybe a little yellow to give it sort of that hay color. All right, it's Yeah, it's kind of like that. A little more umber to it if you want. And all you're going to do basically right now is just sort of go in here where the darker areas are and just smudge this in. So you don't really have to paint it carefully. Just kind of block it in. This is called underpainting. As most of you know, we've discussed that many, many times. And I'm going to paint right in here on the edge. Okay, this is the end of the hay bale right there. So I'm going to go ahead and sort of soften it, outline it right there. Go around that. So basically what you're doing here in essence is you're really just drawing with your brush. Okay, this hay's going to come out here. This. Okay. Now once you've kind of got the basics, and if you want to go ahead and take a light sketch here, you can do that. Actually, there's two hay bales right here joined together. You can't see them, but they're there. And so we'll put another one here on this side. You can see a little bit of this hay coming out here. Now, the beautiful thing about doing these acrylic paintings is that they are so easy to go back and fix. You know, anything you mess up on anywhere in the painting, you don't have to scrape it off. You can just paint right over, and that's what I like about it the most. Now, while that's drying, sort of setting up a little bit, let's go ahead and do the outer areas of the hay, and we'll do that with the same color, but you're going to add a little white to it, and this time I want you to add a little more yellow and maybe a touch of red. Okay, make it just a little lighter, see it's a little lighter color. It's still the dark part for the light side of the object. Okay. But see how I'm being very loose and free. I'm holding my brush back. I'm not getting too careful. I have noticed now that as I've traveled around the country and I visit with people and talk to different artists and a lot of the students, most of you have a tendency to still work too hard at this, trying to make it look like a photograph, and that's not what we're trying to do here. Whenever you're underpainting especially, you want to be loose and free with it like this. Don't get carried away with it. Especially when you're doing something that's got so much softness to it and so much character. If you get it too photographic, it becomes monotonous, okay? Now again, I'm reloading here. I'm using the white with a little bit of umber, a little bit of purple, a little bit of burnt sienna, and the white. A little more white there. Go. And we're cooking. You can just fill this whole area in because there's hay that's kind of scattered around on the ground, and it's just really kind of neat. So here I'm just going to kind of do a gentle blending from the bottom up into the gray to sort of suggest the fact that hay is scattered around back there, but you can't really see it. Now I'm adding a little more white to the mixture, and I'm going to make this part just a little bit lighter. Okay, now we're moving. It's going to be fun. In fact, it'd be real fun for you to just kind of get a good idea on how this is done and go set up your own still life. I think you would really find it an incredible experience to work from your own setup. Okay, now after you've kind of blocked in the basic shape of the hay and the location of that, then we can go back up here and start blocking in some of the other things. We can even get the shape of his head. We can get the shape of his body. Those are all just basic things. In fact, I think we'll start with the body. And I'm going to take the ultramarine blue with a little burnt sienna, and I'm just sort of mixing in the same pile here. I'm not trying to get a finished thing here. This is going to be more of a bluish color. So I'm taking the blue, and of course it's a sort of a checked shirt there, one of my old painting shirts, and I'm going to sort of sketch him in like this. And I'm going to come down like this. That's where his other shoulder is there. And he has no neck, of course, which I was a pumpkin head, I wouldn't want a neck either, so that's good. Now, come around here, just kind of smudge this in. And watch your angles now. See, we got to come down here. You got a shoulder that comes out here, okay? And it comes down like this, and then it sort of bends back up this way. So we want to keep an eye out for that. And he's got a pair of gloves on, and I'm sure that's an important part of this. Those are some old work gloves. Okay, just block this in here. Okay, now let's just come on down here to the ultramarine blue and a little bit of white, working in the same mixture. It's a little bluer, and with the white, it makes it just a little bit cleaner. And we'll block in the blue jeans, okay? So we're gonna go all the way up here. It's pretty wide here, I guess. I think he needs to be going on a diet here. Okay, we come around here like this. And then this one comes over here like this. Now, keep in mind, we're going to add highlights and shadows here in a little bit, but you have to underpaint the thing first, okay? Just don't forget this is underpainting. All right, kind of comes right on up into here a little bit. That's all you're doing right at the moment is just getting the basic shape. And once you have that, it's pretty simple. Because see, in the knees, where the knees are, there'll be the hay, you got a hat or the straw, you know, coming out. Okay, here. Finish giving his shirt a shape. I'm going to widen this a little bit over here. Come out like that, and then come down more like that. Give him a little bit more of a thicker body there. It'll look more stuffed. See, that's the beauty now of, we were talking about earlier, if you paint your edges around your objects, because you're going to keep inching your way out when you're finishing your subject, so if you're not careful, it gets too wide. And see, I'm real safe now where I can gradually go out there and still have my background covered. See, it's covered nicely, and there's no canvas showing through. Okay, now this leg right here sort of crosses underneath this one, so that's going to be more of a bluish color there. So we'll go back to that. And we'll take care of that here right quick. Okay, that's very good. Now we're pretty much in business. Now this also opens up the door where we have to go in and pull the hay back over just a little bit further next to his body. So you just take burnt umber now, and because you want that a little darker anyway, right up against the edge, just go ahead and pull that into there. And then we're in pretty good shape. All right, now we're making progress. Okay. Now let's go in and block in the basic shape of his head. Now this is important, and you don't have to do anything particular here except block it in with the orange and a little bit of blue. And let me tell you why we do this. We're not after the finished color. We're not after a particularly finished color yet, okay? It's important that you get that really in your mind, because all you're going to do is get the basic shape. Now his head sits right like this. It's a little wider at the bottom, a little thinner at the top. About like that. Now, you know, you've seen pumpkins. We all have them around at certain times of the year, and so they all have a different shape to them. And of course, it has a, you know, the stem on top there, which you can, I would put out about like that just to kind of get a suggestion there. You can also block in where the eyes go if you want very quickly. Like I said, now you can switch to another brush if you want. And it doesn't really matter what kind of shape you make his eyes, his nose, or his mouth. That's up to you. Have some fun with it. I'm just going to block it in, and then I'm going to come back later and do some detail work. But I'm going to go ahead and just get the basic shape there. See how I'm doing everything with my brush? Okay, get the basic face blocked in. Then we'll come over here and do the other pumpkin using the orange, a touch of blue. And the only reason for the blue is just to kill that bright orange so that it's not so strong and overpowering. Now, this is a fairly good sized pumpkin over here. So get that one sitting on top of the hay bale. Okay. Now we're cooking. It's a nice pumpkin. In fact, this is a real nice pumpkin. All right, while we're in the pumpkin patch, let's go ahead and just block in the other ones real quick like. This one. So it's a good idea to just get everything blocked in and then come back and begin your detail work. That's what this is all about, okay? And I want you to use your freedom. That's another thing that I really stress, and I realize that most of us are still coming off of the old idea that, you know, if you had a pattern, you can just block this in quickly and everything will happen. We're living in that fast-paced, push-button world, and it's really hard for an artist to learn to be real creative when everything is furnished for you. That's why in all my classes, all the places I go, I teach people to use their mind and their heart and their inner workings, not just follow some pattern. And you'll become a much better painter, and you'll be happier in the end, too. It's really important, okay? Now we've got a couple more down here at the base. So let's block those in very quickly. Now, these pumpkins aren't necessarily really features, so please be careful here again not to emphasize them that much. Okay, and like I said, we'll come back later and add some shadows and things. Right now, just sort of block in the basic pumpkins down here, and we'll get their forms correct later. Okay, now then, next step. After you kind of block those in there, you'll notice there's some little fruits and, well, they're actually not fruits at all. They're all vegetables there, the gourds and all those things. Well, and there's different colors. One sort of a greenish color. We've got a white one, a tan one, we've got a yellowish one, we've got a brown one. There's all kinds here. So you sort of just do your own thing here at this point. I want to take some yellow and white and kind of mix in with this stuff here. And I'm going to go ahead and put, I think one right here. I'm just gonna smudge in some little colors, just suggesting these fruits, vegetables. I'll get it right here in a minute. And that's all you do, just sort of suggest these things, and we'll detail them out later. Now over here, there's the end of some Indian corn. I think that's one of the most beautiful things at this time of the year is the corn. I love this corn. It's so pretty. Those are the stalks. Just kind of smudge them in there. You can put a little over here too. I think there's some sticking out here. Now there's a couple up there, but we can add those just a little bit later. Now it's important here that we make sure everything falls in line. Now you can't see where he's sitting on the back of this hay, and it looks a little odd. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and make some more hay out on the back side. So let's take a little white. And down here on your palette, just see I'm working in the same area here. I'm not really changing anything at all, okay? I'm going to go on over here and just sort of block in some hay. Actually, this is straw, but I keep calling it hay. I don't know, it just seems to fits better. Okay, just kind of block that in right there. Just smudge it. Don't get carried away with it. And I'm going to touch up some of the areas that are still canvas. I want you to notice over here, let's block in his old boots. Let's just take plain burnt umber, and this will be one boot right here. Okay, now you'll block it in like this. comes out here quite a ways. And then there's another boot here that you can't really see all of it because it's behind some of these vegetables. But it's right back there. Now this will add that little bit of darkness that we need down here to contrast things against. And then back inside there, there's a little bit more hay, so just kind of smidging the hay around. And everything will sort of fall into place there. Okay. All right, now we've got the basic shape of him there, and he's really kind of fun. And once you get all this done, let's go ahead and block in his hand now where his glove is there. We may have to change that around just a little bit here. First of all, I think I'm going to take a little bit of white. I'm going to go ahead and give this just a little bit, and of course I'm adding some blue to it here, a little more body up, filling this space in because his hand won't take up quite that much room. Okay, that's good. Then take the burnt umber, and I want you to notice now, the glove is here. He's actually holding some corn in his. And because the glove is so, one of those soft cotton old work gloves, you go ahead and he's stuffed. Put this out here like this. And just go ahead and try to make the fingers, because you want it to be a little bit on the exaggerated side, okay? That's one of the whole points behind this, is making this a little more exaggerated. And then you got the thumb right there. See, there is his hand. And then you've got the corn, which, you know, is the different color. So I'm going to take the red and a little bit of orange, maybe a little white, and we'll go ahead and just sort of block in this corn. There's a couple of different ones here. This is not the finished corn. This is just underpainting. Okay, we've got a corn there. And there's another one leaning up like this that I think is kind of neat. This one's a little darker. So I added a little blue and a little bit of red to it. Blue and red makes a nice, rich, deep underpainting color. And this Indian corn has a lot of those colors in it. Kind of blue and greens and grays and stuff like that. And, you know, there's some down in here. And you can even add. I mean, please remember, artistic license is what this is all about. So don't be afraid to get in here and do some things that will be conducive to the composition. And there's a gourd right here leaning up against the deal there. Okay. All right, now that we have that part done, let's start back over now at the top. And we're just going to start from the top and come down. And we'll start first with the fence post, okay? Now, this should not be something that takes a lot of time, but you should go ahead now and let's very gently take your umber, using vertical strokes. Start with the left or the right side and go up and down like this, just sort of smudging it. Don't get too carried away. And then on the left-hand side, use for your white, just plain white, maybe with a touch of yellow. Like so. And just sort of blend the two together, leaving it kind of choppy, like a, you know, weathered wood. And again, remembering that this fence post is not the key or the focal point, so let's don't get too carried away. You want to make it interesting, that's all. Now, if you want to put a couple of little dabs of dark paint in there just to give it a little character, that's fine. There we go. Add a little purple to the dark side, especially right here. This will really help us when we add the color to his shirt and his head. It's really good to get darks, really dark. Okay, now, while you have, let's switch to a smaller brush if you can here. I'm going to use a little round sable. This is my Grumbacher number 6 sable. It's a round. I'm just going to use blue and burnt umber and a little purple and get a real deep dark color, which is almost like a black. I'm going to go ahead now, and you can either use your steady rest system or you can just put your hand on there, whatever works for you. And I'm going to go ahead and block in the shape of his eyes much darker. And then his nose, darker. And then we're going to have his mouth here. This is neat. Very, very neat. Now, again, you know, you've got all kinds of opportunities here to make this do whatever you want it to do if you want to have some teeth in there. You can go back in and take a little bit of orange and just paint right over the top of it. And see, just add however many teeth you want, like that. And you can add those later. In fact, I'm going to wait now since it is a little wet to do that. Now, while I'm doing this pumpkin carving, let's go on down to the other one. There's two of them that have faces here. There's one, this one right here has a face too, so let's go ahead and get the face in it. I'm keeping these fairly simple, just once again for the sake of the show, because we just don't have tons of time here. Now, just go ahead and block in the shape of the mouth, the basic shape, and you can always come back, like I said, and add the teeth and things later. Okay, so there's the basic shape of that particular one. Now, take a flat sable. This is our number 6 Renoir, or the Grumbacher flat sable, and I'm going to take a little blue and a touch of purple, and of course I've got some mud mixed here in the palette, you know, a little orange and stuff. That's fine. We're going to go ahead and define where his elbows and everything been. Now it's going to be a little darker in here, but this is the dark area. And then his shirt comes down about right there because he's sort of angled a little bit. That's where the buttons are. And then there's a collar here. We'll make this a little darker there. You can see just a little bit of his other arm going behind. But you see it's kind of setting back behind there, so you won't see too much of it. I'm going to take a little red now, and go ahead. I'm going to make the orange maybe a little more yellow. And the shape of this corn right here, just a little bit more pronounced for 2 reasons. Number one, I want to be able to see it up against his body, and I want to see where it goes in between his fingers. Just a quick little thing there. Now, in between, wherever there's some dark areas, you can see there's some areas here wherever objects come together. Now, like I told you, it's going to be a little darker to create shadow. So you take that dark color, and a lot of these places, like here, for instance, where this is going to be a shadow against the pumpkin, and maybe back in through here. Be some shadow from those objects there. A little shadow under here probably. Maybe a little bit more darkness right in through here. All there. This is what you do to start cleaning up your painting and start developing the form. Because as you go forward now, watch what you can do with this as you take the blue and the white now, and you begin adding some of the plaid shapes to his shirt. For instance, now on top here, I'm going to go ahead and take this color, and all I'm going to do is just come in and smudge like this. I'm not really trying to create a form yet or a particular pattern, but you've got to start building the light. So I'm going to just sort of build a shirt in like this very quickly, getting a little light in there. Build his collar right there. And here again, this is one of those things where you can just almost do anything you want to. You could create all kinds of effects. I'm going to make it a little darker right there where His head joins on. Now, the stripes, you can see there's some darker stripes, so I'm going to take the blue and the purple. And you can create stripes in a lot of ways. And again, I'm going to sort of leave it up to you, but you can see they kind of go like this. They have to follow the shape of the body. And sometimes we get a little bit frustrated when it doesn't do exactly what we want it to do. And unless you have your own still life set up to where you can see it, you're going to have a little problem perhaps focusing on this, because it's just a simple plaid shirt. It doesn't really matter to me how you handle it. In fact, I'm changing it around as I go. Just very quickly lay in the basic locations of the stripes and then add the lines for the plaid, and then you can start filling in the colors that you want to have in there. And pretty soon you've got it. It'll just blow your mind how simple this really is. It's a little darker, up a little bit there. Now you can already, even though we're not there yet, you can see the forms beginning to develop. Now we take the white. Actually, there's some white in the shirt, as you can see also, or lighter shades of the bluish gray. And that's what I'm going to put in here for the plaid parts. Just very quick strokes. Now please remember a couple of very important things. It's lighter on the left-hand side, and as you go across, it gets a little bit darker. So, for instance, right in through here, you don't want to put a lot of white, but it's okay to put it here because it's going to pick up a little more sun on the chest area here, where it's a little more blown out there, okay? It's rounded there, so it's going to pick up the light, but as it goes down in through here, it won't. Okay, I'm just going to sort of dry brush some little patches in here. Basically, you can call it that, sort of a patchwork. And so you just dry brush in here so it's not quite so dark. Now, if you get the basic patchwork design in there and you start seeing it develop, then you can come in and start working on detailing it here in a little bit. But let's move on down. We're sort of what we'll call the intermediate phase of the detailing of the painting. You don't want to go too far too quick or you'll get in trouble. Now the blue jeans are going to take on a little bit different color. They're going to take a richer blue, you see, and then you just add a little bit of white to it. And they're a solid color for the most part, you know, but because they're crinkled and worn and old, it's best to go in and give them a nice textured, sort of a broken effect here. A little bit darker right here where his legs cross over each other, so let's darken that with a little blue and purple, maybe a little brown, but it's always going to be a little darker. Remember, where two objects come together, you put a little darkness, and that's how you get your three-dimensional form on anything, is by adding darkness where two objects come together. I see how it makes this leg look like it's popping out in front of this one. I think that is really exciting. Come right on down here. That color. And then also while you're doing that, come right in underneath it. And so this leg overlaps this leg. Like that, okay? Then I want you to take a little patch of the hay color, which is going to be white, and a little bit of tan. Now see, I still have some on my palette here that's wet, so I can go ahead where there's a knee right here, and there's a little patch right here where the knee is. And you know, any place else where you want to, you could actually add some other patches because you know it's going to be coming out, and it's going to be coming out underneath his arm here in the sleeve area. Probably some back in there. There's going to be something coming out of the neck. We'll add all those sort of finishing touches a little bit later. Now, as we come on down, let's go ahead and take the blue and the white and begin maybe putting a little highlight even on the side of his pants here, or the top. And remember, it's lighter on top, like this. And so as you go across, you dry brush over and you don't put as much light, so that his pants will have a three-dimensional effect. And that's where you begin doing some of your forming and shaping. And not just on this particular painting, but any painting you do, well, you want to go through and begin the shaping process. And you want this guy to look stuffed, okay? So that's why he's got to be a little puffy, and you want to be a little more loose with your stroke. It's just not a refined thing. You don't have the sharp creases and angles that you would normally get in folds of the material, because we've stuffed this to the point now to where he looks, you know, you can't really see the creases in the material. So he's going to be a little bit puffy looking, and that's the whole idea. Now I'm going to take this leg over here on the right-hand side, though, and bring it out just a little bit more, darkening this. I want this to be a little whiter right here. And then, of course, this one comes down here like this. It's going to come out like that, a little bit wider. Okay, good. Now, there's a couple of other things here that are important. Actually, we got this out too wide now, because I just noticed that leg's crossing over here, and it should be at an angle. So let's pull that back in there just. See, it should be angling like that. And then we'll angle this one in a little bit more here. And this is a good lesson in how you cut things down when you go a little too far. You just paint over it. In this case, all I'm going to do is take the hay on the outside here and angle this in just a little bit more, so that's in line with the rest of him, okay? Much, much better. You do a lot of your correcting with your brush when you do this. Now we take a little blue and purple. And you darken the area here, just right in there. And see, we're just trying to get all the darker areas blocked in. Now we've got the basic shape of him and pretty good, looking pretty good there. And now it's time for us to go back in there and start doing some of the detail work and the fun stuff that I know a lot of you just can't wait to get to, but sometimes it just takes a little time. First thing I'm going to do is go ahead and block in the stems, or the stem to this pumpkin. Just take a little brown, a little white, and just put a stem there. There's one on this one. The problem is we may paint over this one because we've got the hay we have to work on, but for now it's okay. Now let's go back up to the top again, and now I'm going to go ahead and put some of the highlight on the pumpkin itself. I'm going to just take the pure orange with a touch of white, and I'm just going to make a quick stroke like this. A little too much white there. This is a very clean, bright, important color. Okay, now as you come, you leave a little space like that to kind of create the, the ridges. See how I'm just doing that? And you create the three-dimensional effect of the pumpkin just by leaving a space where the dark comes through. This will help you understand even more now why we don't do a whole lot of highlighting till the end, and you put all the dark colors in first, because see, that creates the three-dimensional ridges in there. Now it's a good time to come in and decide whether you want to put some teeth or something in here or not, because they'll just be part of what you're doing there. Okay, yeah, he looks pretty bad. So that's good. I think you can have so much fun with that. So just be at liberty to do it like you want to. Once you get that part of it done, remember lots of little things are going to happen. You're going to have your little shadows and highlights. You're going to have, like for instance, there'll probably be a shadow from the stem on the thing there. You may have to darken it a little bit here and there, especially down here where it joins on to his body. You know, some of these pumpkins had flaws in them. They had little holes and damages. Some of them are still kind of green around the edges. Okay, now after you've done that, let's move on down and say to the inner part here of his body, and let's start building the highlighting a little bit. Now you can see on the reference material over here that the light is fairly straight on here. We don't have the intense shadows that really make a painting come alive, so we're going to add those now. So take the white with a little touch of blue, not too much, just enough to sort of tint it. Okay, take the white, and in this case I'm using gesso. The white with a little tinge of blue. And let's go up here now. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put just a little brighter. Okay, just start pulling this out. Now notice where I'm holding my brush. I'm being very gentle. Like that. And I'm going to come down here. A little more precise now than I was being. Now please remember, you can always come back and add more of anything that you need to make this work. But right now you got to start like this. Now you can see that's making him really look more three-dimensional and come alive a little bit more. Nothing worse than a dead scarecrow. So let's get him lively. Dry brush as you go across here, here, and just have some fun with it, okay? Move a little bit more over here in the middle part of his shirt. Now I'm going to dry brush back in here so that you can see it, but you don't. It's not real dark, real bright. Now you're not going to have much over there because it's pretty much in shadow. But, boy, that's so exciting to be able to just sit there and just put a stroke or two and things just happen. Now, if you want to switch to your little round sable brush, the little Renoir sable, just take a little touch of white with a little yellow and you know, maybe a little touch of brown. We'll get some of the straw that's been stuffed inside of him here, kind of hanging out. And we'll do that like this. You can just put more individual, see, like this, just dry brush it out so that it's got that real scratchy, rough, straw-like look. And see, it looks especially good against this black or dark colored post over here. But especially around his neck. And it's probably going to have some coming out of his shirt because I know that there was some coming out. You can probably see some of it there, but just put nice little quick thin lines like this. This is what will give this the character that it needs. Okay. Really an exciting thing. Same thing here now. A little bit more down here around his sleeve. And probably a little right in through here. We know the other hand is in here somewhere, we just can't see it, so it's probably got some coming out. Okay, let's hold off on this for a moment. Now let's highlight the glove a little bit with your number 4 sable brush, a little flat one. Just taking burnt umber and white. And it just takes a couple of strokes. Now this is important here. Once again, I find most of you, when you get to things like that, you just get up here and you spend a lot of time trying to make every finger in place and everything happen. It's not necessary. It just takes a quick stroke like this. Just enough to suggest the fact that he's got fingers there, okay? You're not after anything major, okay? So don't spend a lot of time at it or you'll get yourself in trouble. Just suggesting his hand there. Okay, now the next thing is on the left-hand side over here where the hay and the corn is, we're going to go ahead and block in the corn. There's a couple of stalks of corn that are hanging out over here. I want to get those in so that we won't have to come back later and patch up the pants. So it's good to get everything behind an object done first. Let's say about 3 stalks of corn here. Okay, now we're going to have to add some color to those. Now this corn had a lot of color. It had blues and tan. I mean, every color in the rainbow almost in this corn. A lot of violets and reds. It's really a fun thing. And I'm just going to do this real quickly because we're not really going to detail them yet, but I'm just going to suggest the little corn-like effect just by making little short choppy strokes. The width of the brush is perfect for this corn. And then we'll highlight it here in a little bit. So you can see now how it looks a lot more like corn there. I'm going to take some white now and do this top one. See, I'm just making little short choppy strokes. You leave a little bit of the background coming through, and then it looks just like little corn. Okay, it really works good. Now I'm going to take the same little round brush that we were putting the hay and stuff in there with, and I'm going to take this hay, and I'm going to put a few little dabs of, or strokes of that out here. Okay, for instance, now I'm going to put behind here, see I'm coming out with the end of the corn, and of course the hay and stuff that kind of blend in together. I don't make this look like a pineapple. Okay. These are just long smudges of dry brush strokes here. And that gives you sort of the suggestion that there's corn there. Also up here, while we've got this thing going here, you're going to see some up here. These are the things that make your painting come alive. These are the things that give your painting character. Because see what's happening here, you're getting the contrast. Okay, and that's critical. You got to have the contrast if you want this to work properly. The light against dark, the light against dark. Now, frankly, just down here in this right-hand corner, I think I'm going to make this a little darker. So I'm going to take some brown, a little burnt sienna, and I'm going to darken this, and there's 2 reasons for this. I want to add a little contrast to the painting, but more than that, I want to create a little bit more of the effect that we're sitting on solid ground, okay, not just floating in the air. And this will help do that because we're going to pull some weeds and things up around there. And if you'll take a little bit of green, a little bit of burnt umber, and you just sort of smudge this in right here, that will take care of that problem as we finish this up. So, this is sort of an afterthought, but as I started watching the painting develop, I could see that I think this would be a really good thing. So let's get that in here. Because usually, and I've worked on farms and ranches all my life because I love the country and I love, this stuff isn't mowed and manicured. You just throw your hay or vegetables out there on the ground, and wherever it landed. Now, this particular thing was posed, of course, but because it was against my house for a decoration. But we're trying to make it look a little more natural. Now, over here, if you darken this a little bit, too, I think we'll do the same thing here. Now, see, I'm dry brushing as we go up. See how I'm dry brushing this? Now, I want you to notice what's happening. Already, this is starting to come forward, and it's all falling into place very nicely because of the contrast. Okay, and keep it kind of what we call kind of scumbly. Scratchy there. Then what we're going to do, take a little white with a little touch of orange and yellow to create more of a hay-like effect or color. Got a little umber to it, but I don't want to get it too dark. This will be the edge here. Now, don't worry if everything else kind of blends in. See, the important thing here is that you're creating the suggestion, the illusion of the hay and the straw, and we're not trying to make it look like a photograph, okay? Now, I'm not saying you can't take it a step further if you choose to. But one of the things I like about this painting is the looseness and the beauty of keeping your strokes sort of spontaneous and fresh. I'm going to come in here and make this a little darker. See, I'm being real scumbly. This is how you create the effect of the hay, being a little bit less smooth. And you come back with some bright lights on the edges of things and on the tops of where the hay is. And being very loose, very free. Wherever the sun is hitting something now, it'll start picking up the light. It's a much more intense light. Okay, we'll let that sit for a second. Let's go back up here to this pumpkin now and do the same thing that we did up here to this one. Let's just take the orange, maybe a touch of white. Just be careful not to get too much white in it, okay? All right, and just start the process of highlighting this like with the strips. First one, so I'm dry brushing it to keep it blended. Then you hit a little heavier pressure, leave a little space, but soften that edge, come right on down. Then you have another one here. And then there's one here. Here, and then here. Now again, you're not going to see it as much over here because it's in shadow. In fact, we may even have to darken that some. We'll have to see. But now let's go back up here and put a little bit more brighter, maybe a pure orange even, right on the very edge like that. That makes it stand out very, very nicely. Okay, see how pretty that is? And go ahead and do the same thing down here. Now, be sure you leave a little space between each stroke or you'll lose that three-dimensional form. Then you got to go back and add it. And you don't want to have to do that. Now I'm going to go ahead and shape the pumpkin here a little bit. I'm going to put it a little darker on the edge here. I remember what I told you, you can start shaping and forming your shapes and things here as you go. Now there's a little bit of a smaller pumpkin back here that's turned sideways, so let's go ahead and put him in. And he just sort of falls into the picture there, more or less as an accent color. You see, you don't really have to see it, but you do have to darken the space underneath in between here like this. See, that's where the shadow's going to go, so that's got to be darker. Well, this is a great lesson on values and shading because you've got to understand that you've got to change. For instance, if you want something to really show up, you've got to have a darker value in order for it to contrast properly. Now see, like here at the base of this pumpkin, I'm going to go ahead and darken it, and on this side a little bit. So that he'll stand out a little bit more, maybe a little darker right there, so that he stands out in front of that, or this one stands out in front of this one. Also, this top pumpkin needs a little darkness on the right-hand side, just a little, and up just from the bottom, going into the ridges. Be very, very careful. Now see, that three-dimensionalizes it quite a bit. Now then, don't do these because you have to get the hay and so forth done in there first. Now there is sort of a greenish-white gourd or some kind of I don't know what it is. I should have done a little research maybe. And let's get this in here because I think this color is nice. See, it's sort of a greenish-white. Just block it in there like this so that it stands out. Then underneath it, take the hooker's green and a little burnt sienna and put the darker value like this. So that gives us another color, which is important. We haven't had the green yet, and I think that's nice. Although you might want to put a little green smudge or two up here to suggest the fact that there's maybe some other. And repeating that color is very important. Okay. Excellent. You see how pretty this is? It's already starting to develop, and it's really neat. Now, on the holes in his pants, I think we should go ahead and take a little bit of umber. And just for the practical purposes, if you go ahead and just sort of make some little dark shadows in there, it'll make the hole in the pants kind of show up, and then when you put the hay in there a little brighter, it'll stand out a little more. So, you know, if you're going to have 2 or 3 other holes in there, you need to do this. And if you want to come in and add some little smudges like this, you can even take your finger, kind of just add some little deformities or little holes, little smudges in the pumpkins. You can do that, and you can use other colors for that as well. I'm going to take a little white. Like this, and highlight the edge a little bit. Okay, so that makes it a little stand out some. You take a little more white, and let's do the edge of this gourd here, because it is sort of a whitish color. It's got a similar look like a pumpkin. I'm not sure what it is. I think they grow them mostly for decoration, but it's pretty. Now let's put some of the hay, some of the straw that is, on the top here, coming across like this, so we can see it. See, I'm just kind of little short, choppy strokes. Because you want to get the effect that the hay is here, and it's kind of scattered a little bit. A little bit more here. Now it's a little darker over here because, of course, it's in shadow, so you add a little burnt umber to it, and you darken it. Don't be afraid to do that, because, see, you got to have this shadow here, okay? See, that kind of three-dimensionalizes it almost instantaneously. Now I'm adding a little umber and yellow to the mixture, and we'll sort of texture this into a hay-like effect. And see, I'm just being real loose and it's called scumbling, basically. It's very much similar to what we've done for fur and hair and stuff like that. And you sort of create that. Don't get too far down in here, because, you know, we want this to be in shadow there. Now, as it gets over here on the right-hand side, it is a little darker because of the fact that it is in shadow. See how loose I'm being and free? This. Now, don't get it real dark. Just dark enough that it creates a nice contrast. And be a little loose, get us little rough edges here and there, like some of the straw is looser. Mostly it makes a nice contrast against the pumpkin. And remember now, everything is hinging around the pumpkins here, so that's where most of our focal point's going to go, and that's where you want to spend your time. Okay, see, this is a little bit nitpicky. So some of this you're going to do on your own at home, because I'm not going to spend repetitive minutes here over and over doing the same thing. So my suggestion to you is to go ahead with the straw in areas where you want the more details, and spend a little time maybe just putting some of it in there a little stronger. Okay. So down here I want to do a little bit of this. See, by doing the shadow there, then you can come back with the brighter highlights and really make this stuff come alive. See, like for instance, see, I can come in here now with some brighter highlights. those strands of the hay or straw. And it really looks good in there, okay? It just adds such a nice character to it. You don't want to have any real major finished hard lines in this, so that's why I'm coming in like that, so you can see where the hay is there, kind of stacked up. Now you can throw other vegetables and fruits in there if you'd like. I'll go ahead and finish this out a little bit here. And you'll probably want to do a lot more finish work because you're going to have the time to do it, okay? From an instructional point of view, showing you the technique, the rest of it's up to you. Because like I said, you might want to add some more different vegetables. You might want to put some little flowers scattered around the edges of this. I mean, there's a whole lot that can be done here. But see, I'm just doing a lot of scumbling. That just eventually, if you do enough of that, that creates some dramatic effects like the hay is finished. You can also take your number 6 bristle brush. Now, I do this a lot because I'm more into the suggestion of things than I am the actuality of things. I really feel more confident and comfortable there as a painter because so many of us try to paint so photographic, like I've mentioned to you so many times, that we really lose the purpose for what painting was intended for, and that's to be expression. You know, you express yourself. And so I like to come in here and just kind of experiment with things. Like right here, I'm going to experiment with using this number 6 brush, which I think will be effective. And I've done a lot of finished paintings like this, where I'll take this brush and do some of the finished work for the hay instead of so many little tiny details, okay? It's not so important. Let that sit for now. And I'm going to pull some grass up through here. Let's go back in with some dark, just some umber with a little purple and blue. Let's block in the dark side of the shoe here. A little darkness there, a little darkness there. In fact, this one's pretty dark all the way through just because it's in shadow, and it really makes that green, whatever that thing is, stand out. Now, on the top of this old boot here, you can just do whatever you want to. I'm going to go ahead and highlight it like this. Okay, and you can come back and you can put the, it's got shoelaces on it, so you can exaggerate that by just taking a little blue and brown. And you can go ahead and put the little dark holes on each side. And you don't really have to get that carried away. Just suggest it, because remember, this is nothing more than a Scarecrow, and the suggestion of him there is all that's necessary. There. Now then, let's go back in here and emphasize this Indian corn. I think this is going to be one of the real features of this. But I'm going to take a little blue and white to start with. I mean purple and white. That's the dioxazine purple and a little white. Because you see a lot of that color in here. And let's go down here, say to this one. So I'm just going to dab in my brush. That suggests the corn. Put a little up here on this one. And a little on this one. And then let's come up here. Let's have another one right here. I like the idea of having one here, sort of overlapping this section. Then you come back with the red because it has a lot of red in it. See, I'm just dabbing. Little quick dabby strokes to give you the effect here that you're after. Boy, that's a lot of fun. And see, it really makes that corn come out. Same thing up here and here. Put a few of these strokes. Then you got to come back with some of the yellows and whites. It's a lot of fun to do this, and you can see it's not that difficult if you're loose and free. Now, if you get real carried away and you get real stiff, and once again, try to make it look like a photograph, then you're going to have problems. Now here, see, this is the end of the corn here, so it looks good against this background. Kind of covered up our green vegetable there, but that's okay. Actually, it works out better that way. And then down here, I'm going to have a little bit of purple just showing. Now, sometimes you do what we just call accenting. Now, see, like by doing that, you create the effect that perhaps there's some more corn stuffed around here. You might do a little there. Now I'm going to take the white and a little bit of green. I'm going to go ahead and see, I'm kind of dabbing. This creates the suggestion of the little bumps on these gourds. They're very textured. Okay, and you just sort of suggest them there. That's all you have to do. Now it's time for you to do what we call just the refinement of the painting. You just start going through and you find the areas in the painting that are sort of a, you could say a bother to you. Maybe you're missing something. Like see here, we need shadows underneath some of the vegetables. Back here on the hay like that. Anything that you need to do to accent, to finish, to highlight, this is the time to do it. You can even take the orange now, and if you want to make it a little brighter in a few spots, you can do that. You can put, of course, all your highlights on your stems. You can do anything you want to do at this point. I'm going to put some of the orange in the corn. See, I'm just dry brushing that in there. You want this as colorful as you can get it, folks, without, making it gaudy and overpowering. A little more highlight on the edge of this shoe here. I always take my finger and kind of smudge it. You can go back in and work on the shirt if you want to put in some real thin highlight lines. Maybe in this case, to accent this, you would take some gesso with a little bit of a thinner mixture. And you can just go in here and you can go ahead and clean this up a little bit more. Perhaps you've got some thinner lines that you want to put in here and there. Just anything that you want to do at this point to kind of add a little bit more character to this. This is your chance. And you can have a lot of fun doing it and then turn this into a beautiful, beautiful seasonal painting that, yes, very instructional, but I would suggest you do him again where that you can really put the emphasis on all of the things that would be important to you. Just adding highlights now, okay? Especially on his pants down here. We don't have enough really highlight on the edge of his pants here, so I certainly would come in there and get some nice bright highlights right on the edge there. Just a little bit. Now if you want to, and I would suggest this even, make the dark side a little bluer. You can almost take pure ultramarine blue, just make this a little bluer. And let me tell you why we could do this. This is good because this also gives you the more true nature of the color of the pants. They're real rich through the blue color. And I think by adding it on the dark side, your eye carries that color on across, even though it may not be there, and suggests the fact that these are blue jeans, old worn out blue jeans. See how nice that brought that out? Okay, at this point, I'm going to go ahead in the background now. I'm going to take my script brush. Now, we haven't used this one at all in this painting. In fact, you probably noticed it's been a very limited palette. And I'm going to take the Hooker's Green with a little burnt umber. And I'm going to go ahead and pull in some of just a few weeds back here like this, just to sort of add a little bit more of a finished effect to the composition, because we know they're going to be there. I mean, they're out in the country like this. There's just weeds and brush and stuff, and this is really exciting. And adds another dimension to the painting. See how nice that settles us down? We've got to do the same thing on this side. And you can use other colors as well. I want to put a couple that are up behind him, which kind of really tells you that we're setting in some weeds. I just love the way that frames this in. This is so exciting. See, I'm just being very loose and free. I'm not getting carried away with this. Don't be afraid of it. Just do it. Now you'll put some in front of the hay too. A few like this. You can also put some brighter ones, some yellowish, whitish ones if you want. Like this, kind of mixed in here with this. Creates sort of a sunlit effect here. Now, I'm going to take some white on my brush with the color, and I'm going to go ahead and put some real accent highlights here, like where the end of the corn is. So you've got to get that out to where it stands out. This is so important. It looks so good when you do that. Same thing here on this one. See, don't be afraid of this. This is where a lot of us get in trouble. We're afraid to really exaggerate things, and then it creates problems. Your painting looks stiff, looks cold, and just not friendly sometimes. See, by bringing out those little stalks, that's what it looks like there. From a distance, you can really tell. And see, dry brush. See how I'm dry brushing? The secret to this is dry brush. Great. See, those little accents are what make this come alive, just all tied together. Now you can come down here if you want to, and you can go ahead and sort of finish out these pumpkins. Now, like I said, remember, these are not features, so don't get too carried away. Just very suggestive to the point where, you know, they're there, you can glance at it and say, oh yeah, those are pumpkins, but they're not major players as you might think in this painting. So just sort of dry brush this in, a little darker there, a little darker there. A little shadow. See right there how nice that shadow fits in there? Okay, a little shadow there, a little more shadow coming out there. Probably a little more shadow here. Now, this is where you have the responsibility of going in at this point and just doing the final details, finding the little things that you really feel like you want to do to your painting, and do it. You know, don't worry about what we've done here on the show, other than the basic learning experiences that you've got here. If you want to change the shape of things, the color of things, the composition of things, that is entirely up to you, and I hope you've enjoyed this as much as I have. And like I said, this is a learning experience, so take it for that. Put a little highlight on the edge of this stump here, and this one here. And again, you can accent anywhere you want to accent to create a little more life and a little more character to the painting. This is really exciting, and of course you can put the wire in next at the end here if you want to. Take your script brush, and you can just sort of be a little stiff with it and just put your wire in like this. Kind of be a little jiggly. And there you have, of course, you want to put a few barbs on, you can do that and give this wire a little bit more character. Okay, basically, folks, that's really all there is to it. You can, like I said, take a little more time if you want to kind of detail and finish it out, but this has been a real learning experience, I'm sure, for all of you. It has been for me. It's been a lot of fun doing this, but please remember, I know a lot of you that are part of this program, part of the club, sometimes you want to paint only one thing that you're interested in. Please remember, keep an open mind. If you're really serious about learning, no matter what level you're at, whether you're a beginner, intermediate, or advanced, you learn from everything, and then you can take those things and move on into some other areas to suit your own needs, okay? It's been a real joy having you on our show today, so God bless you, stay inspired, and we'll see you in another lesson real soon on the inspiration of painting.